Hello, Jeff Livingston here. I'm the historian with the Hawaiian Railway Society, and we're going to start part 2 of the restoration discussion. There are so many things that not only have been restored in the past by Hawaiian Railway Society, but there are still many things yet to be restored. So we could definitely use your assistance if you're so inclined. What's your passion? What's your interest? We can match you with something that'll be fulfilling to you and of great benefit to the society. One of our most recent projects, this has been started within the last month or so. We have an ex-U.S. Navy speeder. Now, a speeder is a track inspection vehicle. This one is unique in that it probably originally had a 4-cylinder air-cooled gasoline engine in it. When received from the Navy, the engine didn't work, and one of the HRS members back in the day replaced the engine with a 8-cylinder flathead Ford. This is probably the fastest speeder on the face of the earth. Many years ago, I actually got it airborne because I was going a little too fast. Anyway, the engine out of this has been removed, and we had to ship it to the mainland to find somebody that could adequately rebuild the V8. So if cars are your interest and engines are your passion, we've got something for you too. Another project that we're working on is the tender for Ewa 1. Now, Ewa 1, its tender and the cane car set out in our main area where we load trains. It got pretty rusted out, and it was pretty rusted out to begin with. So it's been getting a complete new deck installed on it. Each piece has to be cut out individually and then a new piece fabricated and welded in. When the tender is completed, then we have to start on the engine. One of the projects that we have started, but unfortunately came to a screeching halt, this is a tie inserter. Now, this piece of equipment is not of Hawaii. It never operated here. It was standard gauge, 4 foot 8.5 inches, vice the 3 feet gauge that we use here in Hawaii. But it was purchased by the late Larry Howard, our vice president, and he was in the process of getting it re-gauged, which is completed. It now operates on 3 foot gauge track. It was operational in that it would move under its own power. That rectangular yellow thing in the back is a diesel with a hydraulic pump. This is a hydraulically operated piece of equipment. To the far left is the operating arms of the tie inserter. This particular piece of equipment is going to be moved in the next few weeks. When I say moved, it's just going to be moved aside to clear the track so we can move some other equipment around. But it would be a significant benefit to help us with our maintenance work, and potentially if the state goes through with hiring a contractor to do all the maintenance, we can run it to the contractor because it would make their work so much easier. Besides restoration, regular maintenance also is constantly ongoing. Locomotive 423 was restored by HRS. It has a new hood, it has replacement engines in it. It still needs to be rewired. Well, one of the traction motors failed on it. So the traction motor, the entire truck was removed. We have the ability at the yard to put a locomotive up on what we call the bridge and physically disconnect the rails underneath and lower the truck out to bring it to the shop. This truck has been completely overhauled. The gearbox has been opened, replacement bearings or outer races installed where needed, everything cleaned, lubricated, reassembled. A replacement motor with a new pinion gear has been installed. One of the nice things about working on a piece of equipment that's 80 years old is that they're relatively simple. One of the unpleasant things about working on a piece of equipment that's 80 years old is finding the parts. The traction motors run above $20,000 each. Now, since this photograph was taken, the truck has been replaced underneath 423. 423 is moving under its own power, but only on one engine, because the second phase of this project is to overhaul one of the main engines, a Cummins NH series engine. The original engines were H, they've been replaced with NH, a little later model. And once that's done, we also have to replace the generator. We have a spare generator available for that, and we hope to get, as soon as possible, 423 back in full operation on 2 engines and 2 motors. The locomotive is capable of pulling the train on 1 engine and 1 motor, but it does put a little extra stress on it, and like any 80-year-old, the less stress, the better. An earlier restoration that was done was to the weed spray car. Now, this weed sprayer was used by the ORNL and was acquired, I believe, from the scrapper. I'm not 100% clear. Some of that information has been lost. But it's powered by a Model A Ford engine. So again, if you like engines, you like to tinker, we've got something for you to do. Now, the tank on this has been replaced from the original. It finally rusted out, but it is fully functional, and it goes out and sprays for weeds along the track in the center and the outside edges of the right-of-way. So the equipment that we have at HRS is historic in nature, but it's also useful in nature. We also have a tamper, which I don't have a picture of with me today, but we have restored it. It was a standard gauge unit originally also. It's been narrowed and reconfigured for use on narrow gauge track. And when we replace ballast between the ties, it has to be tamped. We've done it heretofore manually, and we still do a lot of manual tamping, but with the tamper it makes it so much easier. It's automatic. The vibrating tines go into the ballast, compacts everything, and makes the roadbed as good as new. Now, a recently completed project was the French 40 and 8 boxcar. What's a French 40 and 8 boxcar doing in Hawaii? And what's a 40 and 8? Well, the French boxcars in the First World War were marked for the number of men or the number of horses they could contain. And most boxcars would hold 40 men or 8 horses. After the war, there was actually a society of 40 and 8 formed in 1920 because that was kind of the common denominator of service in France, and traveling on these little tiny beat up 40 and 8 boxcars. In response to the 1947 American friendship train that took 700 boxcar loads of goods to France, Belgium, Italy, and even Germany, the French reciprocated with a Merci train, or thank you train, in 1949. The boxcars that came in the Merci train were all 40 and 8s, most all from the PLM Railroad, all freshly painted and decorated as a thank you to the citizens of the United States. Excuse me. Each state received a boxcar, and one boxcar was shared between Washington, D.C. and the territory of Hawaii. Hawaii wound up with the boxcar. In 2022, the boxcar didn't look so pretty. She had been somewhat neglected. Some effort was made to begin a restoration, but a lot of progress was not made, and it was only a partial success. This is the American side of the car, and the other side was a little more intact, but in really in no better condition. In April of 2022, a full-scale restoration effort was undertaken by the Hawaiian Railway Society with the assistance of the Daughters of American Revolution. In the 2nd of February 2025, the 40-and-8 boxcar was rededicated and considered complete. This was a milestone event. A lot of people worked very hard on this, and it was the first significant restoration undertaken in some time that actually was completed. Usually we get to a restoration and it's got 99%, and we just got to get it over the edge, and we're working on that now. This is the current boxcar that is at the railroad, and this was taken on the 2nd of February, which was actually the first day of the 76th anniversary of the cars arriving in Hawaii. But because of the time difference, I declared it to be the last day of the 75th anniversary. So we got in with all the other boxcars celebrating the 75th anniversary. We have additional projects, and I think I may have lost my place here. So can I see the next picture, please? Okay, I'm a little out of order. Okay, back it up a little bit. This photograph is of the Pearl City rail car. It was built by the ORNL in 1922, and it served from the Pearl City Peninsula between the Pearl City Station and the end of the peninsula. It was for the convenience of the residents. Now, keep in mind that Dillingham subdivided and sold the lots on the Pearl City Peninsula, and this was part of the carrot part to get people to come out there. It's a unique little vehicle. It's built on a Ford Model TT chassis. HRS has decided to reconstruct this car, actually make a reproduction of it, and we have in fact started. A little difficult to see in this picture, but you can see the rear axle sitting up there, and to the right you see kind of a wavy piece of steel. That's actually one end of the frame. We have the TT frame, we have the rear axle, we have an engine. We also have an engine on the mainland that is being overhauled with a transmission, and we are slowly but surely going to build this car. None of us have got much experience on a Ford Model TT or a Ford Model T. So anyone that does, we would love to have you come out and give us some lessons. The wheels on this car are going to be interesting. They were originally pressed paper, and initially what we're doing is we're going to build wood dummy wheels that will have flanges, and they will bolt up the same way a wheel would. Now, the wheel you see in this picture is actually a locomotive wheel, but we're using that as kind of a pattern. The gentleman who has started this restoration and in charge of it, Aaron Erickson, is working diligently. It just takes a lot of time, but we are making good progress. One of the issues in making up these dummy wheels before we can mount them to the chassis is that they're big. This is actually a wheel that he's made up, not finished yet, of course. Those are pie-shaped pieces of glue lambs that have been glued together with biscuits and will now be routed out to a circular shape and then fitted to the axles. This is partially to make sure that everything is going to align and fit like we want it to, and doing it with wood first is far easier than doing it with metal. So this project is just getting underway. It's going to take quite a while to get this project to completion. Now when I say quite a while, what's quite a while? Well, in this next case, Coach 57, the reconstruction of Coach 57 began in 2009, and it's not finished yet. It's getting close, but we're not quite there. Coach 57 was one of the last of the coaches built by the ORNL. They were built 1921-22. They were built as second class or commuter coaches. They didn't have the clear-story window roof. They didn't have windows on the ends. They were longer than the previous cars and held more passengers, and the seats were all wood. So not the most comfortable cars, which is what made them second class. Now 57 had an interesting history. When the ORNL abandoned the main line and started getting rid of all of their equipment, 57 was one of 15 cars that were sold to the U.S. Army Air Force for use at Hickam. The Hickam Railroad didn't last all that long, and by 1949 it was gone. Of those 15 cars, 14 wound up being burned at Hickam as scrap. The 15th car, number 57, somehow got moved to Lu'u'lu'ulei and taken over by the Navy. It was the only passenger car at Lu'u'lu'ulei. It was later in the 1960s sold to a mainland short line railroad that was owned by Hal Wilmunder. The name escapes me off the top of my head right now, but he used it in California for a number of years, and around 1974, with some help from the late Jay Condi and Gerald Best and others, 57 made its way back to Hawaii. And when she returned, looked far different. This is upon her return from California. She's sitting on the dock in Honolulu and looks to be pretty decent shape until you look more closely at the roof. It's not looking too pretty, and you'll notice that there's two uprights supporting the car body. So it was not in pristine condition by any means. However, it was a very welcome addition to the equipment of the Hawaiian Railway Society. 57 was taken by trailer to Lu'u'lu'ulei, where she was repainted in a more ORNL color green, and was operated behind Waco 6 for the centennial celebrations that were held at Lu'u'lu'ulei by the Society. Moved to Ewa, this Coach 57, and along with Coach number 2, Coach 2 had been recovered from Bishop also, along with 64. And I know I'm throwing a bunch of numbers out there. Come out to the railroad, I can show you. But 57 and Coach 2 kind of were on the back burner for a long time. 57 developed a significant sag in her body. We tried to put a tarp on her. The tarp was so heavy it made the sag worse. So it was untarped and left exposed to the elements for years. Around 2013, 2014, we started to get things moving. And the first step was to disassemble 57. Here she is alongside the shop. Now, all of the siding has been removed at this point. Just like 64 was undertaken by Dave Lomas almost single-handedly, 57 was undertaken by the late John D'Esso almost single-handedly. John carefully disassembled 57 piece by piece. He made drawings and sketches of every piece that he took off and gave some indication as to where these pieces went. John here can be seen up on a stepladder as he makes his way through the final stages of disassembly. Of course, the end result was finally Coach 57 became a flat car. And at this point, everything else on the car had to be removed. All of the flooring, all of the sidewalls, all of the metal pieces. Now, we were fortunate that the intermediate sills were still good. The side sills were rotted away. One of the center sills was still good, but one of the center sills had had damage to it and had a crack. So we decided to save the two center sills, the two intermediate sills, and replace the outer sill. The repair of the center sill was conducted using the 1918 Master Car Builder instructions to how to repair a passenger car center sill. So it is period correct and meets all the safety requirements. Reconstruction of the car took place inside our engine shop. And here you can see the side, intermediate, center sills back in place. The platforms are in place on both ends. And part of the truss system, the upper truss system, is in place, plus all of the crossbars for the floor. This is how you start to build a passenger car. John was hard at work at this and completed a significant amount of work. You can see at this point the ends have been reestablished, the sides are going in, and the letter boards are going on. This was kind of a transition period. John D'Esso unfortunately passed away, and the project laid fallow for a while, and it was picked up by a young carpenter named Brian Namba, who did an outstanding job and a huge amount of work. As time went on, shortly after that picture was taken, we took 57 out for its very first operational run. This was the first time in over 50 years that the car had actually operated, actually more than 50 years, that it actually operated on the O&L right-of-way. It ran very smoothly. It didn't buckle, it didn't groan, it didn't grind, and we could proceed with the restoration with a great deal of confidence. Now, I said that this was a second-class car, and this is the interior. It's rather Spartan, and you can see the seat frames there. Those seats were covered with nothing but wood-slatted sections, so not the most comfortable car in the world. As we continued along, the siding was replaced, and the car began to take on the appearance of a real passenger car finally. The roof has been reinstalled. There is a water closet installed in the car, of course, so it will not be operational. But the car has come quite a long way since that first time. And we even have included lights inside. Now, the car was originally equipped with lights that would have been powered by the Locomotive turbo generator. Now, obviously, we don't have a turbo generator or a locomotive that can generate that. So this is running on a 24-volt battery system with LED lights. And the light fixtures themselves are similar to, but not identical to the originals. 57's first run in over 50 years carrying passengers occurred during the rededication ceremony of the 40&8 boxcar on the 2nd of February 2025. Here we see the Happy Bunch rolling down the right-of-way on 57. And unfortunately, the happiness was short-lived. 57, after about 3 or 4 miles, developed what's called a hot box. The bearings on the truck journal had melted, and therefore we could not continue and had to return to the yard. But of course, your saga is not complete. She's back in the shed. We have jacked up one end of the car and rolled the offending truck out from underneath, disassembled it, and are making repairs to the journals, and we're getting rebouted bearings. And our goal is to have 57 fully operational and back on the line at the end of the year. We have another major restoration project that I'm not going to get into right now, which is Coach 2. Coach 2 is so bad it makes 57 look like brand new in its worst state. But it's going to be a fun challenge, an interesting challenge, and we invite you to come out, give us a hand, meet the challenge, see what it's all about. We want you to have a good time working with us, and we would love to have your participation and your help. So thanks, and let's talk about restoration more sometime.